In this video, I'm going to be remixing Good Luck Babe by Chappel Roan by making it into a drum and bass banger. After 20 years of producing electronic music, this might be my toughest challenge yet. I'll show you the process I went through, what changes I've made, and how you can bring your own flavour to your own DNB remix too. Before we can even think about turning this track into drum and bass, I need to crack it open and take a proper look inside. Because once you start pulling a song apart, you have to make some of the hardest decisions of remixing that almost nobody talks about. Creating a remix is a little bit like performing musical surgery. First, you've got to get in there and look at what's going on. In most tracks, you're looking at three main components, starting with the chords. This one's got a lovely, sweet progression, but will it hold up at 170 BPM? That's another matter. We've got the instrumental layers, plodding, sugary synths and drums. And finally, the vocal. She's definitely the star of the show, but she might not be getting out of this without a few scars. So here's the unsexy truth. Remixing is less about what you keep and more about what you're brave enough to bin. And the only way to know what works is to throw ideas at the wall, see what sticks, and later claim it was all part of a bold creative vision. Joking aside, there's going to be a bit of trial and error here, but that's all part of the fun. So, how do you get ruthless? Let me show you what I did for this one. So first, the chords. Pleasant enough, but a bit too sugary for what I'm going for. So I rewrote the chords because apparently I enjoy suffering. I wanted something with a bit more bite, crunchier, more minor. As for the instrumental layers, I'm not going to be keeping anything from there. It reminds me a bit of the end credits of a teen drama. It's nice, just not for this. So last, we move on to the vocal. This is where stuff got tricky. What started as a bit of light musical surgery turned it into a full-on Frankenstein situation. But I managed it like a man fixing a smashed plate with nothing but craft glue and regret. I wouldn't recommend remixing this tune if you're a total beginner. The timing's all over the place and it took a lot of work just to get everything lined up, which is one of the reasons I deleted so much of the vocal. So now we've got several of our musical organs on the operating table. Lovely. Time to figure out how to stitch them together and zap life into this thing. Now, you might assume that working with so few bits from the original would be a nightmare, but actually, it gives us the perfect excuse to get creative with what's left. Okay, so it wouldn't be my kind of drum and bass without some sort of properly stomping beats. I sped up the vocal chops to fit the new tempo, but there's a big problem. The hook completely falls apart at this speed. So yeah, I ended up cutting the title line from the track. Excellent decision, dude. But don't worry, I've got a creative way of keeping good luck in the track, just not in the way you'd expect. So these two lines from the chorus survived the cut. I kept them because they have clarity and impact even when sped up. I'll use them sparingly, but they're going to be doing some heavy lifting next. I can actually use these short snippets to build the basis for our entire build-up. So, how exactly do you pull that off? Easy. I took this vocal line and repeated the last syllable. That one simple move lets us extend a tiny moment into something way more useful. Now, with that repeating vocal in place, we can start ramping things up by pitching it higher and higher until the tension's exactly where we want it, ready to explode. The track is swaggering along nicely, so now is the perfect time to do some table flipping. This is where you get to inject your own attitude into things, and it's also where I show I really mean business. Quick confession, I'm hopelessly addicted to making filthy bass noises. Honestly, nothing satisfies me more than crafting a dirty bass that's squelchier than a punched lasagna. I've come up with a few bass textures here. First, a pretty aggressive bass with a lot of movement, which is a classic DNB sound called a Reese bass. And then there's this beast that sounds like a wild boar trapped in a bathtub. Definitely on the weirder side. So how did I create these bass elements? The Reese bass is just detuned sawtooth waves. Basically a couple of synth waves slightly out of tune, giving that thick, gritty sound. I added some distortion, reverb and delay, and then I just tweaked some filters and parameters over time to keep things interesting. Now, for the bathtub bass, I've got a filter creating that pulsing effect. And thanks to a technique called convolution, one of my favorite tricks, it also sounds like it's coming out of a bathroom stall or something. If you want me to dive deeper into these sound design tricks, then drop a comment, because I'm always happy to nerd out. And remember, when you're injecting your own attitude into a track, ask yourself, how can I add movement and interest to the textures I'm creating? So finally, please enjoy my end result. I may have pulled a bit of a switcheroo there with the genres, but let me know what you think. So that's the basics of remixing a track DNB style. But if you want to create sick sounding productions every time, you need to know how to avoid 5 mistakes beginner DNB producers make that leave them with tunes that sound basic as f***. I cover them all in this video here, so if you're interested, go and watch that next.